Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Wassalatu wassalamu ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. Welcome to our Tafseer lesson, Surah Baqarah, verse 231. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. وَإِذَا طَلَّقْتُمُ النِّسَاءَ فَبَلَغْنَ أَجَلَهُنَّ فَأَمْسِكُوهُنَّ بِمَعْرُوفٍ أَوْ سَرِّحُوهُنَّ بِمَعْرُوفٍ. When you divorce women and they fulfill the term of their iddah, either take them back on equitable terms or set them free on equitable terms. وَلَا تُمْسِكُوهُنَّ ضِرَارًا لِتَعْتَدُوا. But do not take them back to injure them or to take undue advantage. وَمَنْ يَفْعَلْ ذَلِكَ فَقَدْ ظَلَمَ نَفْسَهُ. If anyone does that, he wrongs his own soul. Do not treat Allah's signs as a jest. وَلَا تَتَّخِذُوا آيَاتِ اللَّهِ هُزُوًا. Do not treat Allah's signs as a jest. وَاذْكُرُوا نِعْمَةَ اللَّهِ عَلَيْكُمْ وَمَا أَنزَلَ عَلَيْكُمْ مِنَ الْكِتَابِ وَالْحِكْمَةِ يَعِظُكُمْ بِهِ. But solemnly rehearse Allah's favors on you and the fact that He sent down to you the book and wisdom for your instruction. وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ وَاعْلَمُوا أَنَّ اللَّهَ بِكُلِّ شَيْءٍ عَلِيمٌ. And fear Allah and know that Allah is well acquainted with all things. Before we go to explain this ayah, the ayah before that, 230, we have explained that the real process of three talaq, what is the real process for that, and the misconception which is found among the Muslims that even if a person has said it 3 times, the word talaq, 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 for example, it is to be treated as a triple talaq, and after the triple talaq, the same husband is not allowed to marry the same woman until she marries someone else, divorced by him, passes her iddah, and then the first husband, with her agreement, could marry her. So that was what has been explained very clearly in the last lesson. We have said that it was a disciplinary act by Sayyidina Umar, the second Caliph, radiallahu ta'ala anh, when he saw the people hastening towards this act of saying it 3 times. Then he said, I'm going to make it binding upon you if you keep on doing that. So that was an act, you can say an executive order from the Caliph, Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala anh. And it is also stated in Musnad Ismaili that Sayyidina Umar regretted this action before his death. Now here I want just to add a few things. The first thing is that when the people go for this commandment of Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala anh, and they argue that as long as the Caliph has done so, then it still continues. And we have already quoted the hadith of Abdullah ibn Abbas when he was asked by his pupil, Abu Sahba, that what was the practice or what was the treatment of this type of 3 talaq during the time of the Prophet. Then he replied that during the time of the Prophet, during the time of Sayyidina Abu Bakr, radiallahu ta'ala, and during the early time of Sayyidina Umar, the practice was to treat 3 talaq as one revocable talaq. One revocable talaq. But Sayyidina Umar, as we have already explained, issued that executive order to declare them as 3. So my saying is that when they go for Sayyidina Umar's statement about 3 talaq, why don't they go to his other statement about this type of halala? When a woman is divorced 3 times, and then the real halala here means to legalize for her the first husband, that she has to go and marry someone as a natural marriage, with the intention of a marriage to last. But in case this marriage did not prosper and she was divorced, then her first husband could come back to her and marry her, with both agreement, of course. So that is the natural halala, which is meant by Al-Qur'an. But now the people, even during the time of Sayyidina Umar, they took it as a device, halala as a device to legalize the marriage of the first husband to her by entering into an artificial halala, which means that she is going to marry someone for a limited time, maybe just for 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, with an agreement that the man is going to divorce her. And once she is divorced, then according to the Islamic ruling, she would be able to marry the first husband once again. But this was an artificial halala. It was not done for the sake of a real marriage. It was just one to legalize her marriage to the first husband. In our modern terms, you can say it is just like a paper marriage. So Sayyidina Umar, when he was told that after his order, people are embarking upon this type of halala, Sayyidina Umar became enraged. He became very angry, and he said, bring me the person who does this halala, which means the second husband, and the person for whom this halala is done, meaning the first husband, and let me the punishment of adultery, of committing the adultery. So that is very clear that Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala did not approve this practice at all. And there is this saying of Ibn Umar as well, that a man who came to Sayyidina Umar, and then he asked this question about a man who gave 3 talaq to his wife in one go, and then another person married her just for the sake of legalizing her marriage to the first husband. The question was, is she now halal for the first husband? So the answer of Abdullah ibn Umar, no. Until this is a marriage with a clear intention for marriage. And then he said, "Kunna na'uddu hadha sifahan ala ahdi Rasulillahi sallallahu alayhi wasallam." During the time of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, we used to treat this type of marriage as adultery or fornication. And the second thing which is to be considered and remembered here, that if a person really wants to do this type of halala, a natural halala, then what is required? what is required here, that this nikah or this marriage should be done properly, and the marriage should be consummated by the second husband. And this is very clear in the hadith of Rifa'a al-Qurazi from the tribe of Banu Qurayza, and of course he was a Muslim. Rifa'a al-Qurazi, he married a woman and then divorced her. This woman then married someone else, and then she came to the Prophet ﷺ and she complained that this second husband is someone who is not able to consummate the marriage at all. So the Prophet ﷺ said to her, no, it is not allowed for you to go for the first husband until you taste him and he tastes you, which means that the marriage should be consummated. So these are the two things which are related to this ayah. Now we come to ayah number 231. وَإِذَا طَلَّقْتُمُ النِّسَاءَ فَبَلَغْنَ عَجَلَهُنَّ فَأَمْسِكُوهُنَّ بِمَعْرُوفٍ أَوْ سَرِّحُوهُنَّ بِمَعْرُوفٍ. When you divorce the woman and they reach the terms of iddah, to the end of the terms of iddah, and there is an intention on your part to take them back, then take them back bima'rufin, on equitable terms, means in a way that you want to keep them. And if you don't want to keep them, then sarrihuhunna bima'rufin, let them go, set them free, also on equitable terms. So the main thing is, which is mentioned in the next part of the ayah, وَلَا تُمْسِكُوهُنَّ ذِرَارًا لِتَعْتَدُوا. Don't take them back just to injure them. The word dhiraran is used here. Dhirar is to inflict harm. So a person is taking back his wife not with the inclination or with the intention to keep this marriage, to let this marriage flourish, but he just wants to do it to inflict some harm to her by retaining her. Is it allowed? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the next part of the ayah, وَمَنْ يَفْعَلْ ذَلِكَ فَقَدْ ظَلَمَ نَفْسَهُ. And the person who does that, he has wronged himself. This is a Quranic term. To do zulm, to do injustice to yourself, means committing a sin. Because by committing a sin, a person is subjecting himself to the punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He may be punished in this world, he may be punished in the hereafter. So, by subjecting yourself to a punishment, did you do something good to you? No. You have done wrong to yourself. And then comes the ayah, وَلَا تَتَّخِذُوا آيَاتِ اللَّهِ هُزُوًا. Don't take the verses of Allah, the signs of Allah, as a jest. Once again, if a person just says like this, talaq, 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 3 times, is it not a jest? Or he says to his wife, I was just trying to make a jest, I was not serious about that. It means that he is taking the ayat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala very, very lightly. No, these are the rulings of Allah. And a person should think about the consequences of all his wrong actions. And then he says, وَاذْكُرُوا نِعْمَةَ اللَّهِ عَلَيْكُمْ وَمَا أَنزَلَ عَلَيْكُمْ مِنَ الْكِتَابِ وَالْحِكْمَةِ يَعِظُكُمْ بِهِ. Remember Allah's favors upon you and what he has revealed upon you out of the book and the wisdom. يَعِظُكُمْ بِهِ. In this way, he is admonishing you. So it means that all these rulings which are given in Al-Quran, they are for the good of the society, for the welfare of the community. The ayat of the Quran, the wisdom which is given by the Prophet ﷺ in the form of his statements, his ahadith, his sayings. This is all a piece of admonition for them. And the end of this ayah is وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ وَاعْلَمُوا أَنَّ اللَّهَ بِكُلِّ شَيْءٍ عَلِيمٌ. And fear Allah and know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows everything. So here we can understand that if a person is trying to do this type of halala, his intention is not hidden from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Is he just taking it as a device, as a means to declare something haram as halal? Everything is known to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So now let us move to the next ayah, which gives another ruling. And this is the ayah 232. وَإِذَا طَلَّقْتُمُ النِّسَاءَ فَبَلَغْنَ أَجَلَهُنَّ فَلَا تَعْضُلُوهُنَّ أَن يَنكِحْنَ أَزْوَاجَهُنَّ إِذَا تَرَاضَوْا بَيْنَهُم بِالْمَعْرُوفِ. When you divorce women and they fulfill the term of their iddah, do not prevent them from marrying their former husbands if they mutually agree on equitable terms. ذَلِكَ يُوعَظُ بِهِ مَنْ كَانَ مِنْكُمْ يُؤْمِنُ بِاللَّهِ وَالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ. This instruction is for all amongst you who believe in Allah and the last day. ذَلِكُمْ أَزْكَى لَكُمْ وَأَطْهَرُ. That is the course making for most virtue and purity amongst you. وَاللَّهُ يَعْلَمُ وَأَنْتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. ذَلِكَ يُوعَظُ بِهِ مَنْ كَانَ مِنْكُمْ يُؤْمِنُ بِاللَّهِ وَالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ. This instruction is for all amongst you who believe in Allah and the last day. That is the course making for most virtue and purity amongst you. And Allah knows and you know not. Here there is another ruling. If a person has divorced his wife, that may be the first divorce or the second divorce, which is revocable. Now, if he revokes, that is his right. And their bond of marriage still exists. But if he does not revoke the divorce itself, then by the end of the iddah period, that first divorce or second divorce will become binding and both will be separated from each other. But because they have been separated by a revocable divorce, it is allowed for them to remarry without any need for halala, because this halala, as we have said, it comes after 3 separate talaq. So here is the case, is a different case, that only 1 talaq has happened or 2 talaq has happened, and the man was not able to revoke this talaq within iddah period. But once iddah period has come to an end, after that, maybe just after that, maybe 2 months, 3 months after that, he wants to marry the very same woman, and she is also willing to accept him. So what is the duty of awliya? Awliya means the guardians of the woman. Should they allow this marriage to happen or not? The ayah is very clear, which says that if you divorce the woman, they reach their iddah period and end of the iddah period, then don't stop them to marry their husbands if they themselves agree on that remarriage. Here, it is nothing wrong if you mention a case which happened during the time of the Prophet ﷺ. Here is this woman whose name is given as Jumal bint Yasar or Fatima bint Yasar. She was married to an Ansari whose name is Abu al-Baddah, the son of Asim from Ansar tribe. He is the one who divorced her. And then after the iddah period, he wanted to marry her once again, and she was willing as well. But her brother, Maqil ibn Yasar, he was not in favor of that marriage at all. Just for one reason, that this person has divorced my sister. And now he wants to marry her once again. Why did he divorce her? I'm not going to let him marry once again the very same woman. That was the reason, which is, of course, an emotional type of reason, not a rational one. When the case was brought to the Prophet ﷺ, at that time this ayah has been revealed. So when he heard the ruling, straight away he said that, of course, I'm going to accept what Allah's Prophet is going to instruct me. So he accepted. This is how the end of this ayah says, ذَلِكَ يُوعَظُ بِهِ مَنْ كَانَ مِنْكُمْ يُؤْمِنُ بِاللَّهِ وَالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ. This is an admonition for someone among you who believes in Allah and the last day. ذَلِكُمْ أَزْكَى لَكُمْ وَأَطْهَرُ. This is more purifying for you. And there are two words, أَزْكَى لَكُمْ وَأَطْهَرُ, most purifying and most virtuous for you. Because when you allow such marriage to happen, when both parties agree, then you, of course, you are contributing towards a harmonious society. You are populating one house. You are saving one house from a complete break. And this quality is a good quality. That is an action which is taking away hatred, enmity from the hearts of this couple. So this is why, by not stopping them from doing this, you are contributing towards the purification of the society. And you are also giving them an opportunity to be rewarded by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now that is what was given in this ayah. But of course, there are a few issues related to this ayah. Now here is the case of that woman who is divorced. Iddah has expired. Husband and wife are separated. Now the husband wants to remarry her. The way how this ayah is addressed, it says that don't stop them, don't prevent them to marry their husbands إِذَا تَرَاضَوْا بَيْنَهُمْ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ, if they agree on equitable terms. To whom this ayah is addressed? It is addressed to the guardians of the woman. Because as far as the marriage is concerned, there are some conditions attached to the marriage. There are some pillars of marriage, which are known as ijab and qubul, that there is a suggestion from the husband's side, and there is an acceptance from the woman's side. But there is a third element as well, and this is the consent of the wali of the woman. And the immediate wali of the woman is her father. And if he is not there, it means that if he has passed away, then you have to see the nearest one, her uncle, her brother, even grandfather, because it is not allowed for the woman to marry herself. It should be with the consent of the wali. And there is this hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, لا نكاح إلا بولي مرشد وشاهدي عدل. No marriage is valid except with a guided, a person who is well guided in the deen of Allah, a guided wali, and two trustworthy witnesses. And then there is another hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, لا تزوج المرأة المرأة. A woman is not going to wed another woman. ولا تزوج المرأة نفسها. And a woman is not going to wed herself. فإن الزانية هي التي تزوج نفسها. That is a fornicator woman who wed herself by herself. So this ayah shows very clearly that there is a role to be played by awliya, by the guardians of the woman. This is why they have been addressed. فَلَا تَعْضُلُوهُنَّ. Don't stop them. أَن يَنْكِحْنَ أَزْوَاجَهُنَّ. That they marry their husbands. So here, the word أَن يَنْكِحْنَ, that they marry their husbands, shows the consent of the woman because they want to marry. And the word فَلَا تَعْضُلُوهُنَّ, don't stop them. That goes back to the guardians of the woman. And this is the opinion which is held by the majority of fuqaha, that in a marriage there should be consent by the woman and by her guardian as well. And of course, the guardians are instructed in this ayah and also in the ahadith of the Prophet ﷺ, that they must not behave illogically. For example, one hadith says that if a proposal of marriage comes to you, and for your daughter, for your sister, for anyone to whom you are playing as a guardian, accept or hurry to accept this proposal, as long as you agree that the person who is proposing got religion and got good characters. If you don't do that, then you are going to create a great fitna, corruption in the land. The wording of hadith is, إِذَا أَتَاكُمْ مَنْ تَرْضَوْنَ دِينَهُ وَخُلُقَهُ فَزَوِّجُوهُ وَإِنْ لَمْ تَفْعَلُوا يَكُنْ فِي الْأَرْضِ فَسَادٌ كَبِيرٌ وَإِنْ لَمْ تَفْعَلُوا تَكُنْ فِي الْأَرْضِ فِتْنَةٌ وَفَسَادٌ كَبِيرٌ. When a proposal of a person comes and his deen, his religion, and his character is agreeable to you, then hasten to accomplish this bond of marriage. If you don't do that, you are going to create a great fitna and corruption in the land. So the majority of the jurists, they stipulate the consent of wali. The opinion which is attributed to Al-Imam Hanifa rahmatullahi alayhi, he says that as far as a woman who is adult, who is not a minor, she can marry by herself without the consent of the wali. Though he says very, very clearly that the consent of wali is recommended, but he is not making it obligatory. That is the difference between his opinion and the opinions of the other jurists. But let us remember that even Imam Hanifa rahmatullahi alayhi, when he allows such type of marriage to happen, he says with two conditions, that this woman who married by herself and without the consent of the wali, she can do that as long as she is marrying someone who is of her status, who is not below than her status. And secondly, he is accepting, that is the issue of mahar, or the dower amount, that she is not accepting a dower amount which is a lot lower than what is known in her house. So with these two conditions, he allows a woman to marry someone without the consent of the wali. And then he also gives this right to the guardian of the woman to ask for the dissolution of this marriage if the woman has broken one of these two stipulations, that she married someone of a lower rank, or she has accepted a lot lower type of dower amount which is not known in that house. So even there, in the opinion of Imam Hanifa rahmatullah alayhi, there is this right which is given to the wali, that if he is not happy with this proposal and the woman has gone ahead by contracting this marriage, the man is allowed to go to Qadi, the judge, and ask for the dissolution on one of these two bases. He also says that the word an yankihna azwajahunna, that the word nikah is attributed here to the woman. So it means that they are allowed to marry whom they like. Is it a valid argument? When you say that a woman has married, nakahat imra'atun, a woman has married, what does it mean? Does it mean that all the requirements of the marriage are nullified? No. What we understand that a woman has married the way she should marry, with all the stipulations which are attached to the marriage. This is what it means. We know that if a woman has married, then there must have been two witnesses. There must have been a cessation of some dower amount. So why not you go to this third stipulation as well, that there had been consent of her wali as well. Now we come to another issue which is totally different from the other two, but it is linked with the divorce. And this is about the time spent for a woman to suckle the babe. This is verse 233. وَالْوَالِدَاتُ يُرْضِعْنَ أَوْلَادَهُنَّ حَوْلَيْنِ كَامِلَيْنِ لِمَنْ أَرَادَ أَنْ يُتِمَّ الرَّضَاعَةَ. The mothers shall give suck to their offspring for 2 whole years if the father desires to complete the term. وَعَلَى الْمَوْلُودِ لَهُ رِزْقُهُنَّ وَكِسْوَتُهُنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ. But he shall bear the cost of their food and clothing on equitable terms. لا تكلف نفس إلا وسعها. a burden laid on it greater than it can bear. No soul shall have a burden laid on it greater than it can bear. لا تضار والدة بولدها ولا مولود له بولده. No mother shall be treated unfairly on account of her child, nor father on account of his child. وعلى الوارث مثل ذلك. An heir shall be chargeable in the same way. فإن أرادا فصالا عن تراض منهما وتشاور فلا جناح عليهما. If they both decide on weaning by mutual consent and after due consultation, there is no blame on them. وإن أردتم أن تسترضعوا أولادكم فلا جناح عليكم إذا سلمتم ما آتيتم بالمعروف. There is no blame on them if you decide on a foster mother for your offspring. There is no blame on you, provided you pay the mother what she offered, what you offered. واتقوا الله واعلموا أن الله بما تعملون بصير. Provided you pay the mother what you offered on equitable terms, but fear Allah and know that Allah sees well what you do. There are so many issues related to this matter of suckling. First of all, this ayah is related to the previous ayah, and that is a case of divorce has happened. The parties have separated, but the woman got a babe in the age of suckling. So if she is still married to that person, then there was no case of asking or forgiving wages for that woman who is suckling the babe, because there is the requirement of fulfilling the financial demands of the woman. It becomes very clear that this ayah is related to a post-divorce situation. Divorce has happened. The woman got an infant and she has to suckle the babe. So here are the instructions. Let us see what are the instructions of the Quran first. وَالْوَالِدَاتُ يُرْضِعْنَ أَوْلَادَهُنَّ حَوْلَيْنِ كَامِلَيْنِ لِمَنْ أَرَادَ أَنْ يُتِمَّ الرَّضَاعَةَ. The mothers should have to suckle the babes, their babes, for 2 years, for 2 complete years. لِمَنْ أَرَادَ أَنْ يُتِمَّ الرَّضَاعَةَ. That is in the case when the person, means the father, he wants to complete that term of suckling. We know from the ayah of Surah Al-Ahqaf, وَحَمْلُهُ وَفِصَالُهُ ثَلَاثُونَ شَهْرًا. The whole period of the pregnancy and the suckling is 30 months. 30 months means 2 years and 6 months. And this is how it is well understood that if a woman gives birth to a child, even after 6 months of divorce or 6 months of the death of the person, death of the husband, this child is to be attributed to the same man. Why? Because if you take away 24 months, equal to 2 years, just for a suckling period, then 6 months remains for pregnancy. You can understand it in a different way as well. that if a woman gives birth to a child after 6 months pregnancy, then at least she has to, not at least, at the most, she has to suckle the babe for 2 years, because the complete period for pregnancy and the suckling is 30 months. It also implies that if she has given birth after 7 months, then the suckling period be 1 month less than 2 years' time, for 23 months, and so on and so forth. This also implies that if the man wants the baby to be suckled for the whole period of 2 years, their mothers should not deny that right to the baby. That is the first thing. وَعَلَى الْمَوْلُودِ لَهُ رِزْقُهُنَّ وَكِسْوَتُهُنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ. During that period of suckling, who is going to take the burden of meeting her financial demands, her clothing? That is the right of the person to whom the baby was born. وَعَلَى الْمَوْلُودِ لَهُ رِزْقُهُنَّ وَكِسْوَتُهُنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ. And the person to whom this baby is born, upon him is the burden of rizquhunna, to provide them with the food, wa kiswatuhunna, and to provide them with the clothing, bil maruf, in a known way, which is translated as on equitable terms. Let's look at the word which is used here for both the husband and wife. It is not said for women the word azawja, or for man azawj. No, for women it is said wal walidat. Wal walidat, the woman who gave birth, that is walida. Just to show that in this case, the woman who has given birth to the child, of course, she would be very, very kind to that child, because she is the one who gave birth, and she will not resist suckling the babe. And on the other side, the person to whom the child is born, of course, the man, it means the man, the one who divorced her. But because the child is born to him, one day this child is going to come back to this man. The man would be very proud of his son at that time, his son or his daughter. So as long as he is the benefactor from the existence of that child, he should take the burden of all the expenses related to this suckling. Now come to the next verse, next part of the verse, لا تكلف نفس إلا وسعها. No soul is to be burdened for more than what it can carry. Which means that in the time of Jahiliyyah, of course, the man was not normally was not required to pay in money, dirham or dinar. Normally, the practice was that he has to provide for the food of the woman, and also clothing for the woman. So if that was the practice, that was within their ability. لا تكلف نفس إلا وسعها. So no soul should be burdened with more than what it can carry. So if that is the norm of the society at that time, then you should not ask for more than that. In the very same way, if this custom has changed, and now the people, normally they ask for cash, for money, and of course they would be asked for that money, which can provide the woman with enough food, with enough clothing. And this ayah becomes a maxim by itself. لا تكلف نفس إلا وسعها. Never ever a soul is burdened with more than what it can carry. That is the justice of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So nobody should say that I'm not able to carry on the commandments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For example, as for the prayer, as for fasting, giving zakat, or hajj. He can't say that because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows what is within the ability of the people and what is not within their ability. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not burden a soul more than what it can carry. Next part of the ayah is لا تضار والدة بولدها ولا مولود له بولده. Now here there is another thing here. The woman should not be treated unfairly because of the child. And in the same way, the man to whom the child is born, and that is the father, he should not be treated unfairly. What does it mean? The woman wants to suckle the baby, but the man doesn't. Because of divorce, he just wants to cut off all relations. But this is how he is imparting injustice to her. In the very same way, wala mauludun lahu biwaladi. Now take to reverse the situation. The man wants her child, her infant child, to be suckled by the same woman. But she, because of anger or because she wants to marry someone else, she denies that right to him. In this way, she is harming the man. So both should be fair to each other and try to give justice to each one. The next part is وَعَلَى الْوَارِثِ مِثْلُ ذَلِكَ. And the same rights are upon al-waris, upon the person who is going to be heir for that child. Suppose the father of that child is the father of the child has passed away. Now, who is going to take the burden of financing the woman? Who is going to spend upon her? The ayah say, وَعَلَى الْوَارِثِ مِثْلُ ذَلِكَ. These are the rights. The same rights now go to the one who is inheriting. So the one who is inheriting, who is that person? The first thing, the child himself. Because the child whose father has passed away, if he inherited a part of the inheritance, then within that part of inheritance, the financial need of his mother should be met. So there is no question from where the finance could come, from his portion of inheritance. That is the first thing which comes to our mind. The second thing is, suppose there was not enough fund, there was not enough inheritance in the portion of that child to meet all the expenses of the woman who is suckling the babe. In that case, we have to see who are the other inheritors or heirs. So all those heirs, according to their portion in the inheritance, they would be responsible for paying the wages of suckling to the woman. وَعَلَى الْوَارِثِ مِثْلُ ذَلِكَ. And the third situation is, if there is a Baitul Mal of the Muslims, as long as there is a monetary system, a Baitul Mal, then of course there is no need to go to the inheritors asking them for the money. It should be a duty of the Muslim state through Baitul Mal to pay the wages of that woman. Now the next part is, what if both of them, the husband and the wife, the father and the mother, they agree upon themselves to wean the child فإن أرادا فصالا عن تراض منهما وتشاور فلا جناح عليه. Now here comes the consultation between two of them. Because of mutual consultation, they want to wean the child, and of course the weaning of the child would be within this span of time, which is 2 years' time. Because to increase that time, that is not recommended. Medically, it is not recommended. It is said that the child should be weaned after 2 years, because if the child is suckled for more than 2 years, that is not healthy for his mind, for his body. So what we understand, that if they want to wean the child before that period, with consultation and agreement, they can do that. فَلَا جُنَاحَ عَلَيْهِمَا, and there would be no sin upon them at all. Then comes the next part of the ayah. وَإِنْ أَرَدْتُمْ أَن تَسْتَرْضِعُوا أَوْلَادَكُمْ فَلَا جُنَاحَ عَلَيْكُمْ إِذَا سَلَّمْتُمْ مَا آتَيْتُمْ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ. And if you want to arrange for the suckling of your children, it means not from the very same woman, but with someone else. فَلَا جُنَاحَ عَلَيْكُمْ. So then there is no sin upon you. إِذَا سَلَّمْتُمْ مَا آتَيْتُمْ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ. If you have paid that woman whatever you pay with on equitable terms. This also shows that it was not binding upon the mother of the child to suckle the babe, but it was a recommended action. This is why in the end of this ayah it is said that if you want to have this type of suckling anywhere else, you are allowed to do that. In the case of our Prophet ﷺ, he said about himself, وَاسْتُرْضِعْتُ فِي بَنِي سَعْدٍ. I have been suckled in the tribe of Bani Sa'd. So that was a practice among them, that they used to take the baby to the Bedouin people, and where the suckling was done. Now, this thing has been made clear in Surah Talaq as well, verse number 6, which says, فَإِنْ أَرْضَعْنَ لَكُمْ فَآتُوهُنَّ أُجُورَهُنَّ. If the mothers, they suckle their babes for you, give them their wages. وَأَعْتَمِرُوا بَيْنَكُمْ بِمَعْرُوفٍ. But do it on equitable terms. وَإِنْ تَعَاصَرْتُمْ فَسَتُرْضِعُ لَهُ أُخْرَى. And if you find yourselves in difficulties, let another woman suckle the child on the father's behalf. So this ayah shows very clearly that if a mother is demanding for more expenses and the man is not able to manage all these expenses, can he go to another woman for suckling purposes? Yes, he can go for that. This is what the ayah of Surah Baqarah has said. إِذَا صَلَّمْتُمْ مَا آتَيْتُمْ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ. When you pay on equitable terms, on good terms. And then comes the last bit of the ayah, وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ وَاعْلَمُوا أَنَّ اللَّهَ بِمَا تَعْمَلُونَ بَصِيرٌ. And fear Allah and know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is well aware of all what you do. Reminder of the taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, again and again, to let the people know that whatever they do, they should do it with good intentions. There should be no harm inflicted to any party. There must not be any hidden type of motives behind all these treatments, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows whatever you do, whatever you hide, whatever you declare. وصلى الله تعالى على نبينا محمد wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.